Hey, everybody. So your thoughts control how you feel, and how you feel controls your thoughts and your outcome. Now, where this can be a little complicated for those of us that have an energy type is that number one, we don't actually know what all our thoughts are. We don't know why our thoughts are the way that they are. We don't know if they're ours or if they're someone else's. We don't know if we've taken on someone else's emotions. We don't know if those emotions stem deep inside of us. We don't know where everything's coming from. So that is a part of what sort of gets in our way when it comes to attracting everything that we want to attract in our life. So we're going to do this particular session on, how we're going to deal with that, how we're going to get around that, right? Because it matters. So stick with me through this video while we get through why those of us that have an energy type that are ADHD, that are empaths, that are highly sensitive, that suffer borderline autism or autism, why we struggle so hard when it comes to the actual secret of manifestation, which is your thoughts equal your energy, which equals your outcome. Okay. Now, before I go into that, there's also a little bit more. So, regardless of whether you have an energy type or you don't, we talk about how easy law of attraction and manifestation is, and it is easy. It is easy. When you figure it out, when you finally come to the awareness that you have been attracting and manifesting absolutely everything in your life from the get-go, from every moment of every day of your life, you are actually manifesting and attracting everything, then you can't help but understand that it's easy because you're doing it all of the time. It's literally on autopilot in your life. So attracting and manifesting is absolutely easy. And the truth is, attracting and manifesting what you really want is easy too. The actual actions, the actual steps that it takes, all of that, super, super easy. You will it into your existence, right? Like everything else that we do in our life, we will it into our existence. But, where it gets crazy complicated and doesn't necessarily need to, but does get crazy complicated, is what we are taught to believe, what we are programmed, what is given to us as sort of the tools of how our brain should function and how we should work, and how we actually deal with it. So first, I want to back up and I want you to understand that you not fully believing in what you want to achieve, not your fault. You are the only person that can do something about it. Understand that, but it is not actually your fault. You struggling in your life, not your fault. You are the one that has control over it, and you're the only one that can do anything about it, but it isn't your fault. It isn't even your fault that you made the decisions and choices that you've made in your life. One of the things that I've been working on a lot over the last 10 months in my life is dealing with my belief system when it comes to relationships, because my marriage of 25 years has ended, and I have come to the awareness and understanding that I have purposely throughout my lifetime gone after relationships that are less than what I should be going after. I have typically gone after relationships that are easy. And if you're being honest with yourself, you have typically gone after things in your life that are also easy, right? That are easier. We fear rejection, we fear things not going our way, we hate struggle, we believe that our lives are very stressful, we get overwhelmed easily, and all of that comes from the teachings that happens through society. So we're going to go through some of those teachings so that you can understand. The first teaching that we typically go through is the teaching of you must get a good education and then get a good job, and you should be happy for what you have, and there are starving people in all over the world, so you should be thankful for what's on your table. It's your job to make sure that other people are taken care of as well. If you don't pay your taxes, if you don't uh, do your share, then you're not an active participant in society. What else? relationships are hard, if you have been traumatized in your life, if you have been assaulted, if you've been sexually assaulted, if you've been molested, then you're a victim and your life will be affected for the rest of your life. Your emotions are valid. I mean, I'm even going to go as far as to, I'm actually going to back this up just a little bit. I'm going to talk about this as a therapist for just a short period of time. If you've ever been to therapy outside of with me, because I absolutely don't do this in your therapy sessions, but if you've ever been in therapy, if you've ever gotten help, and understand, I am not at all going to tell you that the help that you've gotten is not valid or not good, but your therapist is helping you, is doing everything with you based on your interpretation, your view, your emotional stance on what took place or what didn't take place. And this is so important because there's always three sides to every story. There's your truth, there's their truth, and then there's the truth. Okay. And 99.9% of the time, all three of those, not real. So when you go to a therapist, they're going to work on your truth. That's what we will discuss. That's what will get talked about. That's where we will give you all of your tools and all of your understanding. They will all stem from your truth. But we're missing two extremely key factors. And those two key factors are their truth and the truth. And as a therapist, we don't have that information. Now, as a clairvoyant and a therapist, I tend to have a little bit more of that information because I'm able to decipher what your emotions took on in your story and what your memory took on in your story, and they're somewhat different. But also where that's an advantage is that if, as a therapist, those therapists took the approach of, okay, so this is your version and we can't promise that your version is completely accurate, so let's go into the actual core of what transpired and let's see how you can be accountable for it or how you cannot be accountable for it, how you're responsible for it and how you're not responsible for it. Not how poor you're the victim and this was done to you, but what's about you and what isn't about you, okay? Because just because things affect you doesn't actually mean that they're about you, right? I'm just going to give you some examples. When I'm doing my coaching and I'm working with clients, and let's say I have a client that was sexually assaulted as a child. It happened to them. It absolutely affected them. They have the memory of it from child's eyes. And child's mind. So I'm not saying when I'm in this session that what transpired didn't happen at all. What I am saying in that therapy is that we can't be sure that what you're feeling, what you're remembering, what you're reliving back to me, even in hypnotherapy, just for the record, because as a hypnotherapist, I do regressional therapy. And just because it's coming back from your psyche doesn't actually mean that that's exactly how everything went. So that's not the core that we should be focusing on. What we should be focusing on is the actual event. And so what I mean by that, so I'm just going to use being sexually assaulted as a child as an example. Can we confirm or deny that you were sexually assaulted as a child? We cannot, because we were not there. But what we can confirm is that you have the memory and the recollection of being sexually assaulted, which means that your body, your mind, everything about you is affected because you were sexually assaulted as a child. What we can guarantee also is that there is no way you're to blame. There is no way you're responsible for this. It's not possible for you to be responsible for this. It's actually not possible. It's the chances that you wanted this, promoted this, went after this. It's not even a possibility. It's not a possibility. So we absolutely know that this happened to you, not with you. Okay, we know that. We also can confirm that you can't be the broken person because it happened to you, not you did it. So if you were the person who did the sexual assault, then you are the broken person. If you were the person that got sexually assaulted, then you are not the broken person. You are the person that the broken person attacked. Okay. call it whatever you want. Call it wrong place, wrong time. Call it a part of the contract. I don't care what you call it. When we're doing work on that, when we're doing real work, when we're bypassing this so that it doesn't affect us for the rest of our lives, we actually focus on the event, not the emotion. Okay. And because we focus on the event in my type of therapy, because we focus on the event, we don't actually have to focus on the emotion because we can shift and alter the motion. Now, this is extremely important. So first, let me back up and say this again. You are in absolute and total control of your brain, regardless of what has happened to you, regardless of what has not happened to you, regardless of what you have been through, regardless of what you perceive you've been through, regardless of what you think you've been through, regardless of what you have been told you have not been through. None of that matters. You actually have total and complete control over your brain and your emotions. Right? And this is the thing that we don't talk about in manifestation because those need to be on track. It is awfully tough. I want you to think about this for a second. It is awfully tough to manifest tons of money for someone you don't like. You blame for everything that's gone wrong in your life. You accuse of being broken, bad, the reason someone touched you. If you think about this like you're thinking about another person, you are not going to manifest them having an amazing, great life. You're not going to manifest the abuser having an amazing, great life. And most of the time, we treat our history like we have abused ourselves, like we are the ultimate abusers to ourselves. So it's really tough. And I'm going to apologize because I don't know why my camera is struggling so much with focusing in and focusing out. Hopefully it'll stop, but whatever. We don't typically gain our perspectives or understandings based on truth or fiction. We get them based on our emotional stance. And if you've been through a lot of in your life, if you feel like you've made not great choices, if you feel like there's things that you have done to affect yourself negatively, then you are your abuser, right? And we don't understand necessarily how unhealthy that is to think like that because we're taught everywhere in society. We're gaslit in everything that we do. We're told that there's something wrong with us if we're not doing things the way that everybody else is, right? And when you have an emotional energy type, it's even worse because you're told that you're overly sensitive. You're told that you take things too personal. You're told that things don't aren't the way that you think that they are. That didn't happen, that those things didn't happen, that those conversations didn't happen, those moments didn't happen, you're wrong. We get told all kinds of things. We get told it by family, we get told it by friends, we get told it by society. I mean, I can tell you I have and here's the thing, this is so important. They could be right, but I can tell you, but it doesn't matter if they're right. This is also important. I can tell you of memories that I have that I recall a certain way, and I'll be having conversations with my sister or with my mom, and they'll say that those didn't happen. Okay, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it actually did or didn't happen. What matters is that I have carried the emotional attachment to what I believe that memory is for years. I didn't carry the truth. I didn't carry what their versions of the stories are. I carried what mine are. I've carried them with me always. And so, if you think about other things in your life, if you think about why people like family members can't understand why you never feel like you fit in, like you don't feel like you belong, like you don't feel like you can have things, they're never going to understand it because they have a different recollection. They have a different emotional standing on the memories. They have no idea what you have taken on and turned into your truth over the years. Okay. They only know what they've experienced, what they've seen, and what they've witnessed, but they have no idea how you experienced it, how you've seen it, how you recollect, and how you witness. And this can be extremely frustrating because everybody loves to say there's truth and then there's fiction. And that's absolutely not true. Okay. Absolutely not true. There is versions of absolutely everything, and how you're affected everything that's going on in your life Everything that you're not attracting, everything that you're doing that you are attracting is affected by the versions that you consider to be your truth, your emotional truth, your outcome truth, your memory truth, your truth. And that is the thing that we want to adjust and change. Okay. And we can't adjust and change that by confirming your truth or denying your truth. We adjust and change that by shifting and adjusting the blame, um, the role you played. Once we start to shift you into understanding what you are taking on from this and how to take on all of these truths and all of these memories and all of these belief systems, and how you can learn how you can control them and you can control those outcomes. Once we show you how you can control your mind, because you do, my friends, have total and complete control of your mind. Once we show you how you can do that, manifesting what you want is as easy as it's been to manifest what you don't want your entire life, because you have been manifesting sometimes what you want, but most of the time what you don't want your entire life. Okay. And we all have experiences of it. So, now I'm going to pause that side of this conversation for a second. I'm going to remind you or get you to recollect the times that you have in fact watched manifestation be an instantaneous thing. So let's use some examples of that. You start thinking about somebody intensely and your phone rings and it's them. You haven't spoken to them in months. Yet you start thinking about them and instantly you've attracted. Instantly. It's happened. You've got the outcome. You've decided to go do something and you go and you get exactly what you want right away. There is so many examples of times that you have instantly attracted, whether that be good, whether that be bad. Now, I can tell you because I spend a lot of time being very aware of how I communicate, that you also manifest how each and every person in your life communicates back at you. You manifest how every conversation's going to go, how every situation's going to go. But for the most part, we are manifesting from a place of lacking, from a place of a belief system of being unhappy or not fitting in, not finding where you belong. I have a story to share with you. And it really is driving me that my camera is not focusing. So I'm sure it's bothering you, and I apologize for that. But this is important information. So I have a story to share with you. For all of my life, up until this last year, truthfully, in everything that I've attracted and manifested and understand, I am quite successful in my career. And if we look at my family, and I come from a successful family, I come from a family of individuals that has done well. My mom and dad did very well. My sister's done very well. We've all had very good careers. But I have probably, well, there's no probably, I have, without a doubt, manifested the biggest income of my entire family. So, technically the most successful career. Now, that's all based on a grading scale, because my sisters had a very successful career too, but it was connected to the government, and so there was limited income, blah blah. Anyway, when it comes to financials, I have manifested the most success, but I have spent my entire life up until this last year truly seeing myself as the black sheep of the family, truly seeing myself as not fitting. Now, every time in my lifetime that I have gone to deal with something, and I'm going to back up here and explain, I'm a therapist, I'm a coach, I have been on radio and TV. I literally communicate for a living. Okay, so I communicate in every emotional language that absolutely exists. I'm a chameleon. I change and adjust how I'm communicating depending on who I'm talking to. I'm like the queen of communication, seriously. So you would think that my communication skills would be top notch. And when it comes to my career, they are. When it comes to dealing with things that I believe I'm capable of, they absolutely are. But when it came to my family, it didn't matter what point I had to make. It didn't matter what I said, how I said it, where I said it, why I said it. Always conflict. Absolutely always conflict. So I have spent more years of my adult life being out of my family's life than I have spent of my adult life being in my family's life. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about my mom, my dad, my sister. Okay. I've spent more years of my life being estranged from my family than I have been engaged with my family. Now, just 2 years. I think it's been 2 years. It has been 2 years. 2 years ago, my father died. 2 years ago in September, actually, my father died. So it's been a little over 2 years. And in those 2 years, things have been very trying. But at the time that my father passed away, I was not, in fact, in my family's life. I was not in communication with my sister. I was not in communication with my mom. I was not in communication with my dad. Now, because of my sister, I got to actually say goodbye to my mom, to my dad, which I thought was spectacular and lovely. And truthfully, my sister is the reason that I got to do that. So because I got to say goodbye to my dad before he passed away, my family, my mom and my sister and I have become quite close. And I made a vow as they were coming back into my life. I made a vow that I would never walk away from my family again, that I would figure out how to be able to deal with it and just accept that I'm the black sheep and that's just how it goes. And I will never walk away from my family again. Anyway, it was about 4 or 5 months ago. You guys are going to discover through Destiny by Design all of the growth and changes that I've made in the last 10 months because I've truly healed my heart and soul, which is why attracting is becoming so easy and why I've discovered the energy types and all of that fun kind of stuff. But I got into a disagreement. Something transpired at the lake and I was very taken back, and I did everything that I normally do, that I know how to do. Okay. I stepped away from the situation so that I could respond versus react. I gave myself time to have my reactions in my head, but not speak them out loud. Then I gave myself time to talk myself out of my reactions, to look at things from their point of view and their perspective so that I could see things from a different point of view. All of the tools that I use every day to be a successful communicator. Okay. I did all of those things. When my mom and my sister wanted to talk about it, I asked for more space. When, like, I literally 24 hours I gave it. And I was sure that I was right and accurate. And for the first time, me and my family were going to have a conversation that was done really well. I was sure of that. Okay. But I have spent my whole life reacting to my family. And as much as I made the decision and commitment that I was never going to go to walk away, I did not do the shift and adjustment in my emotional state of being the black sheep of the family. Anyway, I sat down, I started the conversation the way that I always do. I said, this is from my perspective. So, there's three sides to every story. There's yours, there's mine, and then there's the actual reality. Like, I did all of that. And it went the exact same way it has always gone. And it almost cost our relationship. The only thing that prevented it on my side from almost costing our relationship was I had made the vow I'd never walk away from my family again. And the only thing that had stopped it from ending my relationship with my sister was that she had made a vow that she'd never get up and walk away from me again. And my mom made a vow that she would never not hear it all through. So thank God we had made those decisions, or we would be right back to where we had always been. But here's what was different. Because of all the work that I have done in my emotional state over the last 10 months, since my marriage brutally ended, I was able to watch how I was communicating versus how I thought I was communicating. And it was the most amazing experience because I was able to get, in a course of this one conversation, I not only got confirmation that I absolutely attract this outcome because I fear the outcome. I got that confirmation. I also got to change the direction the second that I understood it. So I got to calm us all down immediately the second that I seen what was going on and say, like, wait a minute, this is old communication. So I want to try to do something just a little bit different. But on top of all of that, I am 54 years old, and for the first time in my life, I actually feel like I fit in my family. I don't feel like I'm a square in a round peg. I don't feel like I'm the black sheep. I don't feel like I don't belong. And it's funny because since this communication and since we understood how we were communicating with each other, we have done amazing. And my mom and my sister have literally stayed at my house days on end. Um, like in the same space, we're sharing, 400 square feet at the lake and 1,000 square feet or 1,100 square feet here all the time. And nothing's phasing me, but nothing's phasing them either. And I'm seeing all the things that I am so much like my sister and I am so much like my mom. And I'm seeing all these connections and I'm getting all these validations of how have always fit. And my belief system is being completely reprogrammed. And it's being completely reprogrammed because what I held on to doesn't matter. It's how I adjusted it and I shifted it and am changing it that matters. Because of that, my relationship with the significant people in my life is so much different than it has ever been. And it's amazing. And it's amazing. And this is what we want to happen for you. Now, this is the other important thing. Well, I have been shifting and adjusting all of my belief systems. Well, I have been doing that deep work, which I'm not going to lie to you, has not been all that deep, just for the record. And we're talking some deep things. It hasn't been all that deep because the approach that I'm taking. But while I'm doing all of that, I've also manifested paying off hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. I've also manifested making a great amount of money. I've also manifested developing and creating 2 programs. I've also manifested talking about TV show stuff. I've also manifested going back into the media. Like everything in my life that I want to attract in the now is happening in the now at the same time as I'm healing, changing, and reprogramming everything in my brain, right? And that is what designing destiny by design is. Okay. So here's the things that I want you to understand. Here's the things that I want to have made perfectly clear in this video. Number 1, your thoughts, even the ones that you don't realize you're thinking because they're on autopilot, and they're in your subconscious, affect how you feel. You actually do have total control of your mind. No one explains why you're not attracting what you want as easily as you should. And it is actually because what you desire and what you believe don't match. That is the reason you're not attracting it. What you want and what you believe, they just don't match. You do not need years of therapy to shift, alter your thoughts, then your emotions, which equal your outcomes. It's absolutely a lie. You don't actually need years of therapy for anything. And 5, you getting what you desire does not take years or going through every trauma that you have had, which is actually the reason that we don't do all this work, that we don't invest into ourselves, because we have the belief system that it does. It doesn't. It doesn't take years. It does not even take remotely years. Okay. It doesn't even take months, you guys. It takes minutes. It takes minutes because nobody out there is teaching you how to manifest your mind. No one out there is showing you that not only can you create any outcome instantly, you can change any outcome instantly. And you can change it whether it's from the past, the present, or the future. You can adjust absolutely everything instantaneously, just by one slight little shift. And so that's the stuff that we're going to be working on for this next year. So really what it comes down to is, give me a year, I'll give you a completely different life. And it's not give me a year and then you can start attracting, my friends. Start attracting right now. Start attracting right now. Absolutely. Okay. Start attracting right now. So let's start with the first plan, the first part of the plan. And the first part of the plan is choosing. I want you to choose to be consciously aware of how you're feeling and what you're thinking. I want you to be consciously aware of the conversations that are happening in your mind. And when you notice them, I want you to make a little note about them, just so you can keep in focus. I want you to make a little note of them. Okay. Now, you can try this by also walking into a situation, and before you walk into the situation, telling yourself what you believe the outcome is going to be. You can do that too, because you already know what the outcomes are going to be. Through this process, I'm going to show you that you really are far more intuitive than you're aware, how to use that to your advantage, but also how you can control and shift it at a moment's notice, which I think is really cool. So here's your first lesson. The first lesson that I want you to do is to be consciously aware, to make the decision, to make the choice, to be consciously aware of what your thoughts and actions are, what the outcomes are around you, what you expected before, and what you got. I want you to start making some notes about that for this next week. Let's make that the focus this week. I want you to be consciously aware of the things that you think a lot about. I want you to, you are the computer. You are your chat GTP, just for the record. You can tell your mind that it needs to acknowledge when you're thinking repeated thoughts. You tell your mind that you want it to acknowledge when you're getting caught up in bad emotional stuff. You want your brain to acknowledge when you're holding yourself back. Let's give that a try, and let's see how far you get in just a week. In just a week. Have an amazing day today, guys, and I will talk to you again very soon.